Hi everyone, Paco welcomes you all in our very first webinar. So before we move ahead, I just want to give you a little brief about our organization. So we at Paco focus to help people to know about their strengths and aid in the choices they make in their career. We provide personalized workshops, psychometric assessment, online counseling and guidance, and interventions too. So we are now moving one step ahead by introducing a webinar series. So today's webinar is all about transactional analysis concepts, and we have today Harjeet Kaur as a speaker. She's a special educator and a trainer from British Council. Hi Harjeet, it is a pleasure to have you today in our very first webinar. Over to you for further discussion with our participants. I think most of the people have joined in. You can probably start with your webinar today.
It and please close your eyes. Thank you so much, participants. Now, just try to feel yourself, feel your existence, and let all the thoughts that are there coming in your head. Just don't stop them consciously. Just let them come anything that's coming in your head. But meanwhile, just try to focus on your breaths. Yes. Take some deep breaths. Breathe in and then breathe out. Again, with your eyes closed, breathe in and then breathe out. Again, I would request breathe in and then breathe out. In this mindful breathing, we actually inhale for 7 seconds per count and exhale for 11 seconds per count. This is like 7:11. Yes. And this is called mindful breathing. Now, after this exercise, I request all of you to just open your eyes gradually and slowly. Yes. I can say that you all must be feeling fresh now and ready for the topic for today. Yes. So, the topic for today that we have with us is transactional analysis. With all of you, we all will interact here and will try to understand what actually these terms stands for. You can have your notebooks or your pens ready with you because there's going to be some activities that you can just note down for your analysis later in the session. So here I start with the topic transactional analysis.
Harjeet,
So it was
Harjeet, just
yes,
a
yes, yes.
moment. I think people can't hear you.
Okay.
I think they can
Am
just
I
connect
audible
to
now?
their audio once. They can just retry connecting to their audio.
Yeah, just let me know if am I audible or not.
Surbi, you can connect your audio once again. Yeah, that's fine now.
Yeah, ma'am, you are connected now. Like, yeah, you're audible.
Okay, thank you so much. So yes, we can very well start with the topic. Yes. So we were just talking about transactional analysis. Now it is a form of modern psychology and it was developed by one of the psychologists, Eric Berne. And it is a technique which we actually use for people and for ourselves to just understand our behavior and interpersonal relationship especially. It is a study of social transaction. Now, we would just try to understand what actually is transaction. You know, when we actually just try to connect to another person in front of us, when we just try to conversate with that person, what we actually do there. We are interacting with one another being that is in front of us. So we are doing one or the other kind of transaction, which here we are trying to learn how to analyze that. So here it is one of the psychological nature, you can say, where we actually relate how people behave and how people behave in response to the transactions that we actually do with them. So that is why here we are using the term transactional, which is psychological in nature. I hope that I have cleared the use of the term transaction, which is here and now. You know, as I just told you, that it is a form of social psychology. Now, transactional analysis is a form of social psychology which actually deals with our personality, communication, human development and systems. Like, when we say about personality, so in social psychology, within the transactional analysis, when I'm just saying personalities, so which means like how our personality is psychologically structured, like what is the impact of our thinking, of our behavior, of our feelings. And when I'm just using the term communication, it means like how we are just communicating with one another in any social gathering, you can say, or you can say in any event, or if you are working, then you must be like communicating with any of your colleague, with your boss even. So there are different hierarchies, so how you are actually communicating with one another. And then the human development, all the events that are happening in our life actually help us. I request, please don't request for the annotations. Yes, thank you. Yes, now, so when I say human development, so which is that like throughout the life, we actually grow with all the experiences, with all the events that we attend, with all the communications that we have throughout our life with so many numerous people, like some are younger to us and some are elder to us. What we actually learn through that experience. So, what is that actually happening? That is the human development. That is actually through the transaction with the individuals and with the system, like the education system, you can say, or you can just talk about the administration here, and you can just talk about the different life stages that you have been through from the childhood and then to the adulthood and then to the parenthood. So this is what actually, this is the human development. And here in transactional analysis, we actually try to understand how we are actually growing from our childhood stage to the later stages that we are now actually experiencing. So I request now all of you to just be ready with a pen and a paper so that we can just follow up with one of the exploration, self exploration exercise. Are you all ready? Okay, all right. So here is the question. Now, I want all of you to just think one thing that you do just because other people expect you to do. You all will be given sufficient time to just think and write down the answers that you feel. But be true to yourself, all the participants. Now, the next. You need to write down something that actually, actually excites you. When you just think about it, you enjoy it at the just thought of just thinking, You may be or you might be just doing that activity in the future or just after some time, and you are just really excited about that. So I just want you to just write down something like that. I hope you all have written now. Now, there are some more questions like this one. You need to just recall a situation when you actually genuinely praised someone recently. So, for that, I will just give you a total of 1 minute where you can just think about for 30 seconds, and for the rest of the 30 seconds, you just need to write down. Please start. Thanks, participants. Now I'm posing just one question again, which is you just need to write down a time when you directed someone saying, like, you must do like this, or you should do like this, or like you ought to do like this. So just remember that kind of situation and just write it down. Again, I'm giving you 1 minute. Please just note it down. I hope you all have just written. Now, the next one. Yes, now you just need to recall a time when you actually genuinely collected some information and then made a decision. Like you just have researched or surfed some on some or the other kind of topic, and then actually after the so much research or surfing, then you just came on to one conclusion that, like, just need to do it or not. You have made a decision, like you need to go through it or not, you need to cross that path or not. So there must be some or the other kind of real time situation that you must have encountered. So again, you just need to recall that kind of time where you actually collected information and then made a decision based on that information. Yes, start please. Yes. Let's all come back here. I hope that you all have just answered these questions well after exploring yourself, right? Now we will just move on to the next topic where we actually would learn why actually I made you write the answers of all these questions. There you will actually understand and would actually try to relate it to it. Yes. So with that, we are here now. Ego states. Ego states is one of the important topic if we are talking about the transactional analysis, which actually help us to understand with the feelings with which we are talking to one another and with which the another person is responding to the communication, right? So here is a kind of feeling or thoughts or behavior we are actually encountering when we develop as we grow up. That can be submissive in nature, that can be like impulsive, or it could be emotional. It may be like someone is throwing tantrums like मुझे ऐसे बिल्कुल नहीं करना और मुझे ऐसा अच्छा नहीं लगता. I won't do it like this or I want that thing only. Or it could be like playful, like the way we actually see a child, or you can say it could be impulsive, emotional, and submissive. So let's understand what is the kind of ego state is that which we are here catering to. So it is called child ego state. So now we will understand what child ego state is. चाइल्ड ईगो स्टेट एक ऐसी ईगो स्टेट है जहां पर वी एक्चुअली बिहेव लाइक अ चाइल्ड, राइट? एंड इट impacts in future as well, right? Coming up to the next, which is could be lecturing, like you can say your mother or your father or anyone maybe criticizing or judging you, or anyone who knows who is like being so overprotective about you, or anyone could be rescuing you, maybe trying to help you out, or you can say it could be a caring nature as well, right? So what these kinds what, I mean like what these adjectives are actually catering to, I mean like which ego state? So it is here parent ego state. So, like where we actually care like parents, where we could be lecturing like our parents, or where we might be judging or criticizing a situation, or we might be like overprotective about someone or something. So, that is the parent ego state where we actually learn from the behavior of our parents and we just try to do the same way in our life. Now, the next one. Next ego states the adjectives that are resonating with the next ego state is it could be logical, it could be rational, or it could be objective, right? So here we are catering with that is known as adult ego state, right? So an adult is who is rational, who is logical, who is objective, like responding in the very real time situation with all the logical reasons and solving a problem, right? So that is what that is here adult ego state. So far we have learned about the ego states. So there are three types of ego state where one is child ego state, next one is adult ego state, and the next one is the parent ego state. Now, just for all of you to understand it in a more better way, I am just going to repeat three statements in three different tones. I hope you will just try to understand which tone was referring to which ego state. All right, so here I say, can you please pass me the plate? Could you please pass me the plate? Could you please pass me the plate? Right. So I guess you very well can understand like which tone was referring to which ego state. So the first one was, just try to understand. You can just write down your answers in the chat window as well. All right. Very well. Yes. So the first one was parent. And the next one is adult. Good. And the last one, of course, here, the last is child. Great. So, yeah, now I'm happy that I am being able to let you know about all the ego states that we cater. Great. Further, we have just one poster in front of you which says, the first person says, always, never, do this, don't do that. So you can, I guess, just resonate with this kind of statement with one of the ego state, I guess, right? And the next one, like why, what, when, where? I think or I see. So what is that? What it could be? So yeah, great. Now the next one, I wish, I want, or I don't care. Oh no, not again this. So what is that? So with all the adjectives that I shared previously related to all the ego states are here in this poster, which you can resonate with all the ego states that so far we have talked about, right? So here one is the parent ego, and the next adult, and the next one child, right? Great. So with that, we will move further. Now here, some of the positive or some of the negative aspects of each ego state. So starting with the child, you cannot just say that child ego state is not good at all. It also has its positive aspects as well. You know, the more carefree you will be, the more creative you will be. The more curiosity you must be holding in your head, the more creative you can be. So there are positives of child ego as well. With all the chaos in your head and all the problems in your head, you genuinely cannot be as creative as you can be with your child ego state, right? So these are the positives of child ego state, like being playful, being creative, being curious, and being spontaneous. But of course, the negatives are also there. Like without understanding the rational part, you may throw your tantrums as well, or you may face a difficult situation, or maybe insecure about something. Like here, I would just like to give you one simple example. Like when you are in a relationship, you can be insecure about your partner. So, what is that actually? Suppose you know that your partner may not be going to ditch you, he is faithful or she is faithful to you. But again, you are insecure inside. What is that actually? That is your child ego state, right? And then when you are just being logical, when you are just being rational, or suppose you are just at your duty, you are performing your responsibilities there, how you are actually reacting in front of your boss, how you are reacting there in that kind of situation where you need to be professional. What is that actually? That is the most reasonable. You just try to be most reasonable. You just try to be logical as you can be. You just try to be rational. And of course, these all states are non-threatening states, right? So where you actually just think and try to be as rational as possible, that is what when you are just catering with your adult ego state, right? So now the next one is the parent. Some may be having these questions in your mind, like that person is so controlling, that person tries to control, or that person never asks for my recommendations. So what is that actually? Like being controlling about the situation, right? Or being controlling about some or the other kind of assignment or a project that has been assigned to you. So that is what kind of ego state you are catering, is like the parent ego state. But with that, not only the negative aspect is there, but the positive one is that, like your parents who are being supportive for you, who are nurturing you, who are calming you down in any kind of situation where you feel that you cannot just control that. They actually are there just to make you feel like you are safe with them, right? So what these all are, these are the positive aspects of the parent ego states. So yeah, we do have the positive and negatives of each ego states here that are in front of us. So far, which is the most important aspect without which we actually cannot go further with understanding of the transactional analysis, is the ego state. And I guess that we have actually understood it better, right? Great. So now there is the transaction between ego states. Why we are actually talking about these ego states? Because we do transact, we do interact, or we do communicate with all the people around you, or you can just talk about the conversation between two people is actually what? When you are just trying to transact with your ego states. But before just moving on here, I would just like to tell you that the activity, I would just like to move on to that so that you can actually understand. Right. So this one was the activity, the self-exploration activity, right? Which we actually performed some minutes ago. Herein, when we are just talking about like thinking of any one thing which we actually just do because other people expect us to do. So the first two questions, they actually cater the they actually cater the child ego state, right? So now the answers are in front of you that you have just brought down. You can just resonate with all the understanding and the answers that you have just brought down. So that you can actually better explore yourself, right? So you may get answers for so many questions, so many questions that you must be asking yourself today or someday other, like ऐसा क्यों होता है, or why do I do this only, why do I behave in certain way, why do I feel such things, maybe it could be negative or positive. So these are the some of the questions that can actually help you out in self exploration. And the next one here, where I just ask you to recall a situation where you actually genuinely praised someone, or you directed someone saying like you must do, so where you actually just give advice like आपको ऐसा करना ही चाहिए. Who says this? I think of course your mother or father, or some or the other influential adult who gives you advices, right? So where at that time you actually do that with your parent ego state. And the last one is the rational. And rational is an adult only. So, of course, that is the adult ego state, right? So, I hope the reason of this self exploration exercise is very well clear to all of you, right? So, yes. So, now we were just talking about we do transact between our ego states, right? So when I'm saying like we transact between our ego state, there are three kind of transaction. One is the complementary transaction that is in front of us in the slide. So I would like to just explain to that only. When we have just parallel interactions, I would just like to explain it in a way like कभी किसी से बात करके आपको लगता है लाइक बहुत फ्रूटफुल कन्वर्सेशन था, जैसा चाहिए था बिल्कुल वैसा था, और लाइक किसी को आपने बोला हो कि मैं बिल्कुल ऐसा ही सोच रही थी और ऐसा ही सोच रहा था जैसा आपने मुझे रिप्लाई दिया, राइट? और यू कैन से ओ या यू गॉट मी राइट. So what is that actually? So that is the parallel interaction. Like the stimulus is getting the same response, right? Initially, we just talked about that what is stimulus and what is response. So, where actually two-person, where one is stimulus and one is the respondent, right? Now, if I say like two-person are there, they are just interacting with the same ego state. Like, suppose you and your friend are interacting with each other on some or the other kind of topic, right? And you both are just conversating in between your adult ego states. Of course, that is the parallel transaction, but with that, it is the complementary transaction, right? Now, not to confuse to all of you, It can be between parent to parent. It can be with parent to parent, or it can be with adult to adult. It can be with child to child as well. That is the simple to understand, like the parallel transaction is going on, right? But with that, it could be parent to child, or it could be parent to adult as well. And it will also be the parallel transaction. Now, how? The answer is, suppose you are just talking to some other person with a parent ego state, but you want the other person to respond back in a child ego state. So that will be what? That will be complementary transaction. Like the person in front of you is actually complementing the transaction, right? So there is no chaos in between the understanding level in both of them, right? So if suppose one is transacting having a child ego state, but expect the other person to respond back in a parent ego state, like that you all must have done. Suppose you are just saying this to your friend or your partner, like, I'm not feeling well, right? So that could be the child ego state. But your partner or your friend responds, you must take care of yourself. You must take care of your medicines or your food on time. So what is that? You were expecting the other person to just respond back in the parent ego state with the parent ego state. So the other one has actually responded back in the same ego state that you were expecting, right? So what is that? That is actually the complementary transaction, complementing each other's ego state, right? So these both situations are the parallel interactions. So that's why we just call that complementary transactions. I hope it's clear. Now moving on to the next one. As I told you that there are three types of transaction between ego states. So first one was the complementary transaction that we just discussed, and the next one is the cross transaction. With the name, I guess it could be clear to all of you. But yes, just to explain here, the transaction is non parallel. It cannot be parallel or just not parallel, right? Suppose you are just talking with your adult ego, but सामने वाले इंसान ने आपको expected way में answer नहीं दिया. So what would be that? You will say like what you were just expecting, you haven't got that. Or with the recent example, if I would say, like, if anyone is like who is unmarried here, maybe may could like relate it to that. Like we do say like we want a partner who could actually understand us. What do we actually mean by that? That is actually like having the complementary transaction, of course. But if we are just not having the complementary transaction, but actually that is the cross transaction, like आप जो बात कर रहे हैं, the way you are just expecting the other person to respond back, if the person is not actually responding back in the same manner, with the same manner here I say the ego state actually. So suppose you are talking with your adult ego state and you want the other person to respond back in parent ego state, but the person is not actually getting it and is responding back suppose in the child ego state, then what it will be like, it will be a cross transaction, right? So that is the non-parallel transaction between two individuals, which is not complementary, right? So you can just relate it to your current life as well. You can actually relate it to some of the real time situations that you may be having or you had in the recent past, right? Now, with the next one, that is here is ulterior transaction. So here is that what? Here actually two ego states are involved at the same time. So now you must be wondering, like, how can two ego states just involve at the same time? So the answer is that, like, you are feeling something, but you just cannot say or cannot use the same words, so you just try to cover up that. And how do you actually cover up? ऐसा बहुत बार होता होगा. You just try to not to use some words, right? Maybe suppose you are in your office or you are at your workplace, you just want to use one kind of expression, but you cannot use it that moment because you have to be be professional at that time. Could be. So what you actually do, you just cover up your emotion and respond back in the more socially acceptable way. So what is that? Here, two ego states are involved at the same time. Am I right? ऐसा होता होगा. You can also relate it to that. Here we are actually in transacting with our two ego states at the same time, right? So the interaction or the responses or the actions which are different from those explicitly stated, right? Great. So these are the three types of transactions that we actually involve ourselves into with our ego states. I hope it must be clear. Okay. So now taking a halt to the understanding part, here let's move on to some activities now, right? So as we spoke to you, self-awareness. So this transactional analysis, it also helps us to make ourselves aware of who we are actually. हमें हमसे मिलवाना, ये काम कौन करता है? The modern psychology transactional analysis. So let's see what is there in that. So I'll just move on with the slide, and it says that there are two questions now in front of you. Again, I request all of you to just be ready with your paper and a pen, right? We will just move to the question one by one, and with the first one. Here, for all the participants, I want all of you to just look back to your parents or any of the influential adult. It could be anyone. जिसको भी आप समझते हैं that person is influential adult in my life. So, if not parent, or it could be both. So you just have to look back to your parents or any influential adult in your childhood. You can just do that by closing your eyes or just try to recall that. And just try to write it down the answers in your paper or the notebook that you are having. Great. There is no hurry. You can just take your time. I hope that you have written down. Great. Okay. Now, we will just move on to the next question, which says that you have to remember any of your favorite dialogue, or it could be any kind of expression, or any kind of proverb, or any kind of cliched statement that you could just remember about any of your close family member or relative or any of your influential adult even or your parent. The person can be anyone, but you just need to remember that favorite dialogue of yours or expression or proverb, right? And for that I will just give you 1 minute wherein you will just think about that and you will just write down that in your paper. Start.
Harjeet, I think your screen is not visible to all.
Okay. I will just share it again. Okay, so can you please tell me, is it visible now?
It is.
Okay. Fine, great. Okay, so we will just continue our exercise here. Yes, sorry for the disturbance, participants. So you can just continue with the exercise and just try to remember that and just write it down on your paper. You still have a good time? All right. So here I ask some of you to just share your answers in the chat window, please. Thank you. Right. So I hope that you all have just wrote down some or the other kind of cliche dialogue that you can remember of any of your teacher or any of your, you know, any of your idol, you can say, or any other influential being in your life, right? Or it could be any kind of dialogue from your parents as well. Have you find out that? Okay, great. So now I want all of you to just think about it. Like, how relevant is it today? If you, okay, right. So now you just tell me, you can just think about that, like the dialogue which you actually just wrote down right now. Is it relevant today or not? You can just check out for yourself. So here I would like to just give you one example, like with one of my client. He just told me like उसके father used to say कि तुम साइंस नहीं पढ़ सकते, बिल्कुल भी नहीं पढ़ सकते, बिकॉज तुम्हारे बस का है ही नहीं, और इट्स लाइक द मोस्ट डिफिकल्ट वन. सो हाउ कैन इट बी दैट in the future that person actually now fear of taking science subject? He didn't study science, he moved on to the other subject. So what is that? So sometimes, some or the other cliched statement that you actually remember from your past or from your childhood, that is what that is actually impact you in the future. So we actually just try to sometimes do all those things just because someone else or some influential being told us to do. So has it ever happened with you? So just try to understand it, try to just ask yourself, just introspect, like, are you doing the same thing that you are just doing now? Why? Is it because your parents has told you to do that, or any influential adult has asked you to do that, or you are just doing that because you wanted to do that, right? So you can just ask these questions to yourself so that you can actually find out the answers. And now the next question. Suppose आपको वो चीज करने के लिए बहुत साल पहले आपके पेरेंट्स ने या किसी इन्फ्लुएंशियल एडल्ट ने बोला था, एंड दैट इज द रीजन दैट यू आर जस्ट फॉलोइंग द सेम करियर फील्ड नाउ, लेकिन आपको वो चूज नहीं करनी थी, आपको कुछ और करना था. सो आर यू जस्ट डूइंग दैट बिकॉज योर पेरेंट्स हैज टोल्ड यू? और अगर आज मैं आपको बोलूं दैट नाउ जस्ट ट्राई टू चेंज इट, do whatever you would like to do, or just change the field, change your job, right? So will you be able to do that? So that is our next question, like, how do you feel when asked to do things differently, right? So that you can just ask yourself, that is again the self awareness exercise. Now you can just understand few of the problems, few of the questions that you must be or you do pose yourself day in or day out, just to understand ki aisa kyun, that these exercises actually help you to answer the questions with all the whys and hows, right? Great. So that is, I hope this exercise you might feel it's fruitful or you might find it fruitful, right? So that is where actually we are talking about raising self awareness. So these questions do help us is raising self awareness, right? Now Now we are when aware of ourselves. जब हमें हमारे बारे में पता है, सेल्फ अवेयरनेस है, उसी के बाद we do actually talk about self introspection, right? What is actually the self introspection? जब हम खुद इंट्रोस्पेक्ट करते हैं, and how do we actually do that? और उस चीज का फायदा क्या होता है? For all of you, just to tell you, सेल्फ इंट्रोस्पेक्शन हर एक की जिंदगी में बहुत जरूरी है, एंड आई थिंक उतना ही जरूरी है जितना हमारे लिए जीने के लिए पानी जरूरी। क्योंकि जब तक हम इंट्रोस्पेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, वी विल एक्चुअली नॉट गेट टू नो हम कर क्या रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं, व्हाट इज द रीजन, राइट? बहुत बार लगता है चल क्या रहा है जिंदगी में, हो क्या रहा है, क्यों? तो वो क्यों के आंसर्स जो हैं वो मिलते ही यहां से हैं, राइट? कहां से? सेल्फ इंट्रोस्पेक्शन से। सो लेट्स जस्ट सी व्हाट इज दैट हियर just for the self introspection exercise. Again, I would request to just recall anything positive said or received from anyone in the recent past. अभी अभी recent past से आपको क्या किसी ने प्रेज किया, या आपने किसी को पॉजिटिवली रिएक्ट किया, बोला, आपने पॉजिटिव जेस्टर्स शेयर किए? डिड यू? जस्ट ट्राई टू रिकॉल दैट and just write it down. Again, it's this self introspection exercise, and you must take your complete time. In this webinar, we are just going to give you 1.5 minute just to recall that thing and just note it down. So please, you can just start now. Thank you all. Now there is the next question, where you actually need to recall or rewind to the last week and try to remember any recent negative experience, again in the same way, said or received, right? Suppose you have received a negative experience from anyone, any near or dear one, or from the close relative, or from your boss, or from your friend, like from anywhere, right? So now you just have to recall that and just try to write it down. Please start. All right. So I guess you all have just noted down. And now, also, you need to note down your emotions. Like अगर आप when you actually received the positive like you must be having any kind of positive experience, or you must receive the praise, some positive words. So what actually was that, and how were you actually feeling? Or suppose you actually gave someone someone praise, like someone is looking good. So how you were actually feeling at that time? Or suppose you have received a negative experience, or you just gave someone a negative experience. So what were you feeling actually at that time? You can actually note it down your emotions as well. So the meanwhile you just note it down your emotions, I just move on to the next topic, which is again the most important topic. And due to the constraint of time, I would just quickly try to explain what do we actually mean by strokes and how these are actually related to this topic. So here our next topic is strokes. So when we are actually talking about transactional analysis, and when you remember we just all right, so I just move on to the previous slide, which is this one. Okay, meanwhile you just do it. I just try to explain, like when you receive a negative experience, or when you receive a positive experience. Suppose you are having a negative experience, how will it impact? अभी आपको एक negative experience हुआ, you just got a call where you actually received some negative experience from your boss saying that you didn't do well, it was not good at all. Suppose your project was not up to the mark, and then just after that you are having one another meeting in 10 minutes. Will you be able to do that meeting properly? Will you be able to address all the participants properly? I think you all know the answer. It will get difficult for you. And suppose vice versa, suppose you just got a call wherein you were praised by your boss saying that you did well, it was marvelous, it was good job. And then after that, suppose the meeting which you actually have to attend after 30 minutes or 10 minutes, you will be giving your best, right? So these kind of negative experiences or the positive experiences do impact in our daily life. So herein I would like to relate all these negative and positive experiences that we actually spoke about under the self introspection exercise with our next topic, which is the strokes, right? Here in this unit, we will try to understand stroke as a unit of recognition. Like we human beings do aspire for recognition, right? You can say it is one of the human hunger, right? आपने अगर कोई काम किया है, then you would actually like to listen some comments on that. Suppose you have prepared one assignment, right? And you are just looking forward for the next person to say something about that. What a child do, when a child just draws something or just scribble something and just go to the parent and just show the drawing sheet. What is that actually? Even a small child actually needs strokes, right? Which is what? Here we are just dealing with the recognition part of the stroke, where recognition we can say that is a human hunger. So now we will just try to understand these strokes in a more better way. Like these strokes can be negative, these strokes can be positive. And one good thing is that we all daily receive and give so many strokes, maybe consciously or maybe unconsciously, right? So now there are these two types of strokes that you can just see in front of screen. Like it can be conditional or it can be unconditional. Like when I'm saying the stroke is conditional, what do we mean by that? Again, the same thing. Suppose you just submitted one assignment, you just submitted one project, and that project was really good, and you received a positive, you just had a positive experience, you can say, and someone just praised saying that that was an excellent assignment, or that was really a marvelous project you worked on, right? So here you received this rock, which was positive, but it was conditional because it was with the condition of the nature of the assignment, right? So here that's why we are saying that strokes are of two types. One is conditional and the other one is unconditional. So now moving on to the unconditional is that suppose you have just entered your office and someone was just passing and just told you, you're looking nice. What was that? That is actually the unconditional. Like you just give someone a comment which was not conditioned on something, right? It was just given to you deliberately, right? So that stroke is unconditional here. So there are these two types of strokes. One is conditional and one is unconditional, right? I hope these two types are clear to you now. And moving on to the next thing, as I told you, that strokes can be negative or positive, and that you can, I think, relate it to, right? Now, these are the four quadrants which actually say us about the type of strokes that we just spoke about, right? We said that strokes can be positive or can be negative, and we said that it can be conditional or it can be unconditional. So here in the first quadrant, which says it's the positive conditional. Why it's the positive conditional? Because you got praise for doing the things right, right? It's for doing, actually when you actually do something and you receive a positive response, so that is the positive conditional stroke you actually receive or gave, right? Now moving on to the next quadrant, which says positive unconditional. Again, where you were just passing by and you just met someone or some of your relative, and that time you just hugged each other or just said or just exchanged some positive words. So that was what? That is the positive unconditional, where actually there are no conditions attached, but still you got a positive response, right? That is just for being, where which is not stringed to any kind of condition, where it is just for your being. That is the positive unconditional, and it could be negative unconditional as well. So now in the third quadrant, when negative attention for no apparent reason, like you just get annoyed when you just see someone just for no reason. I think it happens with so many people. So that is what I mean. Someone says like किसी की presence ही मुझे बहुत annoy कर देती है. What was that actually? So when you just feel annoy on the presence of someone, so that is what? That is the negative unconditional, right? It is just for being, but it is the negative. So that's how you actually receive or give the negative unconditional stroke. And moving on to the fourth quadrant, which is negative conditional. Like again, you did something, but it may not be appropriate or it was wrong. So you just got the negative response instead of praise. So that is what? That is the negative conditional. Why? Because it was again dependent on some or the other kind of condition. So when we are actually talking about positive conditional and negative conditional, so these two types of strokes are for doing something. When some or the other kind of action is actually involved, right? When it is actually stringed to other or the some kind of conditions. And then positive unconditional and negative unconditional. These two types of strokes are what? When which you actually receive or give just for being, right? It is not for any action. It is just for being, right? Just for the presence, you can say. So these are the four types of strokes which has been divided into four quadrants for doing and for being. I hope it's clear now. So now day in and day out, we actually receive or give these kind of strokes consciously or sometimes unconsciously. And we all do need strokes, right? As I told you that here we are dealing with the recognition part, and recognition is, you can say, is a human hunger, right? we do need strokes. So I would say that whenever you feel like giving anyone a positive stroke, do give it, right? It could be helpful in so many ways that you cannot even think about, right? And do avoid all the negative strokes. It can be so much negative that again you cannot even think about the consequences, right? So just try to pass on all the positivity with all the positive stroke. Either it could be conditional and unconditional. I hope that I am clear with the strokes part and the types of strokes. So now here, when I was just talking about strokes, it was what it was actually dependent on someone, like from whom you were actually expecting a positive statement, or you actually got the negative statement, wherein actually the two-person involved. It was between one and another. So now, what happens? Suppose you did something, but there is no one whom you can actually show, whom you can actually, from whom you can actually get some or the other kind of stroke. What will you do in that situation? In those kind of situations, self talk works, and we more often do these self talk. But sad part is that we most of the time do negative self talk. So again, I request all of you, all the participants, to avoid all the negative self talk that you do. Sometimes you say that I seriously cannot do it, like I am not for this work, or I am, I don't deserve it, kind of, or I don't like myself, I don't have good eyes, I don't talk good, I don't have good skills. So that is what actually. These all are negative self talk, and genuinely, you all must avoid them, right? So there is again really a thumbs down to all these negative self talk. Rather, you all must focus on positive self talk, right? Like if you did something which you think that it's excellent, you did it marvelous. Suppose someone hasn't even recognized that. It could be also, it can be the reason, like someone hasn't recognized your work, but you actually did marvelous. You think that you have given your 100%, then what you must do? You must just, pat yourself and say, oh wow, I did marvelous, I did great. So you can do that also. You can just say all these things to yourself, like, okay, I am good, I'm looking good, I did well. I am thankful for who I am. Like these kind of things, So suppose you are just dealing with some other kind of situation where you must say, okay, if you have received something, then you must say that you actually deserve that. So what is that actually? That is the positive self-talk. So now with that, I just give, really a good thumbs up for all these positive self-talk, and the negative one for all the negative self-talks. So I request all of you to just go for the positive self-talk and avoid the negative self-talk. Now, the most foremost and the closing part of our webinar is okay, Coral. Now, um, yes, we are ready to understand okay, Coral. It is related to our life, of course. There are so many healthier and healthy positions that we actually encounter day in and day out. So, how do we actually relate it to that? How can we actually understand that? Again, it is this, the poster that is in front of you actually helps you to understand, like in which situation or in which quadrant you actually fall down, right? So this is known as the life position quadrants. So the very first quadrant, right, which says like I am okay, I'm not okay, you are okay. So what kind of life position it is? It is the most depressive position, where you think that you are not okay, but the person that is in front of you is okay. To look means like you think you are, you just get so depressed in your thoughts that it is like I am not okay, so that is the depressive position. And the next one is I am okay, you are okay. That is, of course, the most healthy position that we all must actually move on to that. That wherein you say, I am okay, you are okay. Like you are also feeling good, and the next person that is in front of you is also feeling good. Now, the third one, I am okay, you are not okay. Means like you are being arrogant. You just don't have anything to do with that person who is in front of you or the next one. Right? You are just fine with who you are. You just need not to say, or you just, you just don't mind anyone who anyone is feeling or having any or the other kind of feelings about. So what could that kind of situation be that? So that is, you can say a paranoid position of your life, or you can say arrogant position where you think that it is fine to be okay, but it is also fine the other person to not to be okay, right? So you must get rid of this kind of arrogant position, right? If you are okay, then of course you either help the other person to feel okay, or anything, means like you can just do for the other person to feel okay, right? So that is of course that can convert it to the healthy position where you will be okay, and the other person will also will be feeling okay. Like you can just uh, pass on some good strokes, positive strokes, just for the other person to feel okay, right? To just avoid this arrogant position. And now moving on to the next quadrant, which is actually full of despair, where you yourself are not okay as well, and the next person is also not feeling okay. So, in you can say like you are just trapped in a situation. So you just can there is no way out. But the only way out is that you must move on to the healthy position which says I am okay, you are okay. Again, there are two situations where you say like I am okay, you are okay, and I am okay, you are not okay. And in between these two situations, the most healthiest one is where you say that I am also okay and the other person is also okay. And I again say all of you to just move on to that healthy position. So you can just analyze this situation, and you all can just analyze for yourself like in which quadrant you all do fall. Is it like you are right now in a depressive life position, or you are in a healthy life position, or you are in a position which is full of despair and futility, or you are just in an arrogant position. So you can just analyze for yourself. So that is why this OK model is so important, and it can help us analyzing and just help us to find out the solution, help us to find out the goal or the objective for which we actually move on to and make some good efforts. So with that, I am just done with all the content that was there in the transactional analysis, which was the topic for today. And I hope that we actually have done a great job in understanding the transactional analysis, which actually plays a great role in our life. And of course, we must thank Eric Byrne to just give us this analysis so that we actually can understand ourselves and the person next to us way better. So now we are just open for the questions, and you can just ask your questions.
Hi,
You
Harjeet.
can just
I think there was a question about asking more. Can we please mute ourselves? Yes, so there was a question of asking more examples. So I would just like to clarify on that. So for if I say, for example, you're talking to your friend, asking them why are you being sad when you see them just broken and crying, and then your friend responds by saying, I'm just sad with the job and the work done. So over here, it would be your parent ego asking their child ego, because you are being the mature one and asking and tapping their child ego by asking, what is it that is disturbing you? And the person has to be free to answer it, right? So if they're responding it in this way, it would be a complementary communication, because they are able to clarify and respond in the same manner as expected. But if your friend just responds by saying, why are you so pokey? It would be a response which you are not expecting, and thus be a cross communication, cross transaction. I hope that is clear. And for the ulterior, I would like to give another example. Supposedly, you are doing some presentation in office, and you tell your boss that, I would really like to try this new method. But your boss just responds by saying, no, I think try the present method which has always been working for you. So over here, the Boss is not directly saying a no. There are two grounds, a foreground and a background. The ulterior motive is hidden in his statement. So the thing said by a boss, a no, is in a more socially acceptable way. That is what is in ulterior transactions. I think you can post more of your questions if you have any, or just raise your hand so that we can proceed. If you want more clarification on the examples or on the content, that can be asked too. Okay, so foreground and the background. Foreground is the exact meaning which is presented to you. Okay, so if I am saying you that please don't, in the example quoted, the boss is saying that try the present method. So it is the foreground, but the background would be that he's saying you a no. Foreground is what is presented to you, background is the underlying meaning of the sentence that they want to convey. In the ulterior communication, foreground and background is used. Okay, so the question is how effective is TA for clients? For what cases shall this be the best choice? Okay, I guess TA for clients would be when TA has the main purpose of letting you, communicate in a better way, in a more complementary way. So if you're talking with your clients per se, it will help you to understand and grasp in what is their communication pattern. So if you're able to tap it, you the misunderstandings which comes from the cross transaction or the ulterior transactions can be taken away. So I think whenever there is a communication, TA has a role. TA, whatever aspect of life, be it with our clients, be it with our employees, be it with our family, everywhere effective TA has to come. I hope I have answered that question. So when you engage in client interaction, you should reply in a positive and complementary ego state. This will enhance your relationships with your clients. Okay, so for in a clinical setting, I guess if a client comes in with a mood, as a therapist or as a psychologist, you need to tap in. What is the ego state that the client has entered into your room today with? Are they in the child ego state or are they in the parent ego state? There have been various examples and adjectives given by Harjeet Kaur as to what are these ego state. If you are able to tap in which is the ego state that the client has entered with, you can see how they are expecting you to be responding to them. If the child comes in, the client comes in as a child ego state, as fragile, you can be more act out like a parent and just console them. That would let them have a more complementary transaction with them. If you just see that the client has entered today in a more rational manner, adult manner, it would be better if the therapist interact with them in the same adult stage rather than being a parent and consolidating them when they are coming out in a adult stage. So that is how complementary transactions can help in the clinical settings. Okay, complementary transactions, I will just repeat once again. It is when you are at the same level. Okay, you are in the parallel conversation. You are responding on, or you are getting a response from the person. That is when it is expected. Okay, so for example, if I'm expecting my friend to be, just explain me why they are sad, and they just respond me in the same manner, or if I'm, talking to my parents about marriage maybe, or on any other issue per se, and I'm expecting to respond them and have an adult to adult talk, that would be a complementary transactions, rather than, they just coming up and telling me like and treating me like a child and enacting like a parent. So that would be a crossed transaction, because that is what not I am expecting from them. Complementary is when you add on, complement what the person is expecting from you. Okay, so I think the questions have been answered by now. If there are any more questions, you can just respond us in the feedback form. After this, we will forward you one feedback form, and this PPT that has been, that is being done will be shared with all of the attendees. Also, I would like to ask the participants to please give out your honest feedback, so that another example for cross. Surely I'll just explain the cross, and yes, the PPT will be sent to you via mail. You can just have it, and please give honest feedback. The feedback form will also be shared. For more questions on this, if we are not able to answer this, of course I'll address this last question. If there are more questions, you can connect to us via different platforms, Instagram or YouTube, Gmail. All of the platforms are open for Paco. It will all be catered over there. Also, the certificates are not available for this one. We will surely come up with a more certificate webinar from the next time. They'll be surely informed to you. Yes, and the recording will also be shared on the YouTube. You can visit us over there and view the recordings. Also, by now, I would like to thank our speaker, Ms. Harjeet Kaur. Thank you for giving us your valuable time, Harjeet. It was a really informative session, and I think the participants have also enjoyed with us.
Thank you so much, Paco team, for invite me here.
Thank you, participants. We'll just forward you the PPT and the feedback forms. Thank you all for your presence and your time.
Thanks all.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you all
Thank
for
you.
joining in. It was really a pleasure to have Harjeet here and all of you for participating in a great way. Thank you, everybody.